Good evening. Everybody's so happy to see each other for the first time in a while, I guess. Welcome. We're happy to have all of you here with us tonight. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Wendell Middle School student Zadarian Smith. You can come up to the podium. Zadarian Smith is a thoughtful and kind student who takes the time to interact with a variety of classmates every day. Because Zadarian is kind to all those around him, he helps all students feel included and seen. Zadarian's teachers enjoy having him in class and can always count on him to participate and help others because he is fully invested in his learning and wants to see other students be successful as well. One of Zadarian's teachers shared that this is in quotes, Zadarian has had a positive influence on his friends and has encouraged them to participate and try harder in class. Zadarian has a natural curiosity that creates a drive to learn and ask questions. He has grown exponentially throughout the year because he's organized for class, courteous, greets everyone every morning, and advocates for himself when he doesn't understand. Zadarian has the work ethic, the desire to learn, and the interpersonal skills that will assure his success in middle school and throughout his life. We look forward to seeing all the magnificent things Zadarian will do and are honored to have the chance to celebrate him for his strong character and hard work. My goodness, I get a lot of great of these, but this one was really, really nice. Very proud of you. I'm very pleased to meet you.
Thank you.
And we're just honored to have you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to move to Section 1, Adjustments and Approval of the Agenda. The town manager has asked that we remove item 3A from the consent agenda. So can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve except for item 3A. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into our public comment. Citizens can participate in public comment or public hearings by signing up for public comment the night of the meeting, submitting written statements to the via email to the town clerk, or request to the town clerk to call the Uber conference line the night of the meeting. And when you do that, you need to indicate the last two, whether you want to be in generic public comment or if this is for a public hearing, public comment. So tonight, we have a list signed up and one that is going to be read aloud when we're done. The first is Christina, is it Brown? Is it Christina Brown? You know what? I'm sorry. I skipped right over the invocation. I had a Post-it note on the invocation to remind me to fix the consent agenda. Let's hear from Mr. Briggerman first. Thank you for waving at me.
Oh, I just... Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I've got a short list I'd like to
Yes, sir, you can.
kind of do a little bit about. Okay, first off, this coming weekend, this Saturday, the Wendell Baptist Church it's called Operation Inasmuch. A lot of churches do that. It's an outreach this week, this Saturday from 8 to 2. We've got a free car wash, vehicle checks, clothing giveaway, hot dog lunch. We've got a kids carnival. We've got a prayer tent, small engine repair, a lawnmower to get your mower ready for the summer. We'll help you take care of that. We've got 2 handicap ramps to build, but that won't happen this Saturday because they're bigger projects. So later in the month, we'll do that. And secondly, on Thursday, May 5th, is the National Day of Prayer. We want to do something a little different this year. We want to meet over here at Ashley Wall Square at 6 o'clock, pray around the flagpole for our country and our community, and then I'm just asking everybody, bring your family and take them to supper here in town somewhere. Just kind of a nice evening out. Okay? Let's pray. Lord, thank you for this wonderful day you've given us. Thank you, Lord, how you watch over us, how you take care of us. We just ask you, Lord, to be with us this evening as our mayor and council members have decisions to make. May they honor you. May everyone that's here tonight, Lord, honor you as well. We ask you, Lord, to watch over our country, keep your arms around us and around this world. For all these things, Lord, we ask in your blessed name. Amen.
Thank you again. All right, now, Ms. Brown. You have 3 minutes. The light will be green, then it'll be yellow, and then red when your time's up. Give me your name and your address.
Okay. Well, hi, I'm Krishna Brown, also known as Chrissy. I live at 4508 Roseville Road, Wendell, 27591. The home I live in, it was built by the Weathers. It's one of the original 20th century homes of Wendell. I'm here to speak on the 2030 Wendell Plan. I'm asking respectfully that a decision on this plan be paused, and here's why. I grew up in North Carolina, Wake County, and left once I graduated from Enloe High School. My career took me to very high-density areas, and for almost 30 years, I lived in places like D.C., Alexandria, Virginia, Austin, Texas, Silicon Valley, and finally New York, before I moved to Wendell and bought my home. These are very, very high-density areas, and I bought my home, which sits on about 2.5 acres, and I chose this home intentionally. I returned home because I wanted to escape the traffic and high density of where I had been living, again, for almost 30 years. My neighbors' homes are also on at least 1 acre. And this is what I think is described as low density, a home that's at least on 1 acre. And I do not see homes like this in the 2030 plan. I do not see homes like my neighbors and my own reflected in this 2030 plan. And there seems to not be an allotment for that. I ask you to pause on approving this plan until a percent of homes that are being planned reflect where me and my community live right now. I'd also ask that there be some consideration of the 17% of poverty right now that exists in Wendell. How are we addressing that in that 2030 plan? Are we causing more harm? Are we pushing them out? Can we have a little bit more variety and consideration of what actually exists right now in this 2030 plan? Because right now, I do not see myself reflected in that, in my neighbors. And there's a concern for the 17%, which is pretty high, of the people who are living in poverty right now and who are dealing with just like trying to live, trying to find affordable housing. And right now, even affordable housing is not affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Jones?
Mayor, I didn't want to interrupt, but those comments would be,
They would, under the, yeah, I thought about that, but where the public hearing's still open, I didn't know.
but you're not to it yet on the agenda.
Yeah, that's true. So, if you want to speak about the comprehensive plan, and you did not speak at our last meeting, if you could hold those comments until we get to that on the agenda, it would be best. Already spoke at our last meeting, you've already used your 5 minutes. But you still have 3 minutes, but you can say anything you want at this public comment. All right. Greg Jones, what's your address, please?
Thank you. I'm Greg Jones, 6141 Robertson Pond Road, Wendell, North Carolina. I just want to come tonight to settle any indifferences I may have with anybody on this board. I thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for running for office, getting elected to office, and being willing to serve the public as you have. The main thing I want to emphasize tonight is I do have a vested interest in this community. As a lifelong resident of Wake County, 50-plus years, I was born and raised right in the heart of all these surrounding communities. There's not one community I have not participated in my life. I went to school in Zebulon. I've run a business in Wendell. I've got family in Roseville, farmed in Nightdale. I'm in the middle of it all. And I know people in all these communities. So when I come before you and express concerns over decisions you are making, and I do not have the opportunity to vote for you, I just want you to understand that I'm speaking from experience, okay? I'm real. And a lot of these things that everybody's here to discuss tonight is really got people up in the air. But at the end of the day, I have fought fires for Wendell. I have swept the warehouses as a young kid in the tobacco market in the industry here in Wendell. So I have a vested interest. So I just don't want anyone to think or perceive that I'm here just to stir the pot or to get something excited. I'm a budget man. I dig numbers. I run for public office just as you have. I'm actually going to be on your ballot again in November this time. But that's not what I'm here for. I just want to let you know I do my homework. And I want you to just respect me, and I will respect you. But look after the citizens. Listen to their concerns, whatever they may be, how small, how large, and make sure everything is across the board and up front. And I just wanted to clear there. I'm not here to down Wendell. I'm here to support Wendell. I want the best for our community. I put up the scoreboards over at the activity center when we didn't have any. That's the kind of person I'm in. I'm all on deck, hands-on. I like to get things done, but I like to get it done in a smart way. And with that being said, just please respect me and my concerns when I do come to this podium, as I have to respect you when you vote on issues that I have no control over. I thank you for your time, and once again, I thank you for the willingness to put the bullseye on your back, sit in that chair, face this public, and make decisions that impact our lives. It is not easy, and I respect you for it. But please respect the citizens, because without them, we have no need for any elected officials. Thank you.
Amanda Allen.
I'm Amanda Allen. I live at 6933 Lake Myra Road. I'm here to speak again tonight about the blueprint. It's notable to me when I read through the blueprint that 91% of those surveyed for input said that they want more parks, more greenways, and open space in Wendell. I'm also encouraged to see that the blueprint advises Wendell to grow from the center, to grow green, and to preserve Wendell's history. Importantly, it states, and I quote, that historic designations can help preserve specific locations or districts, but ultimately it's up to the town to help protect the areas around historic sites. As mentioned at the prior meeting, our Lake Myra community values Wendell's history and appreciates the conservation efforts that Wake County is employing through the Turnipseed Nature Preserve and Lake Myra County Park. We hope that the town of Wendell also sees the value in land conservation around our lakes, waterways, watershed areas, and recognizes the potential ecological impact that high and medium density housing will have there. Our request is for more designated areas for open space and around the areas of Lake Myra and the Turnipseed Nature Preserve. Prior to the rezoning of any land surrounding these areas, we request that you require developers to present an environmental impact assessment to ensure that our nature preserves and wildlife there are protected. We also encourage each of you to visit these areas if you haven't already, because we're confident that you would agree with us after seeing it for yourselves. Not only are Lake Myra and the Turnipseed Nature Preserve a home to diverse wildlife and vegetation, but both also have a rich history that deserves to be passed on to the next generation. I'm a physician, and I'm interested in the history of medicine in our community. I recently learned that the historic store on Lake Myra served as a makeshift vaccination clinic each summer. A nurse from Wake County would come and administer typhoid vaccinations to children who would drink well water and who spent their summer days swimming in the lakes and the creeks around our community. My Aunt Sadie and Uncle Larry remember receiving their typhoid vaccines in the store, and afterwards my grandfather would buy them a knee-high orange soda as a special treat. The lake and the home overlooking it were also both owned by physicians from Raleigh, and prior to being called Lake Myra, they were both referred to as the Doctor's Lake and the Doctor's House. Lake Myra was once a source of recreation and a social hub for our community. The lake served as a baptismal pool for area churches. My Uncle Bruce remembers being baptized there as a child. The remnants of the old Lake Myra mill remind my family of the times that they would bring their corn crop down to be ground into feed for their animals or to corn mill for their own food. And I love the idea of seeing it restored. The families that have called the Lake Myra community home for generations, we feel a strong responsibility to preserve the history and ecosystem for our children. So please work with us to make the area around Lake Myra a place for conservation, recreation, and historic preservation by thoughtfully considering each rezoning request and whether or not the true values of Wendell will be honored with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Brittany Marshburn.
My name is Brittany Marshburn, and I live at 10300 Pool Road in Wendell. The 2030 blueprint states that land is Wendell's most precious resource, irreplaceable and increasing in value. To plan for future growth, we must aim to become a good steward of this resource and determine what part would be useful to develop and what part would be useful to preserve. For the past 20 years, the town of Wendell has worked to do just that and started identifying important areas to protect for their historical and environmental significance. The town's website states that the first step for the comprehensive planning development team was to review previous planning efforts when developing the new blueprint being voted on tonight. As I spoke to a few weeks ago, Wendell created a framework for growth on the last comprehensive plan. Step 1 was to identify land which should not be developed based on environmental, agricultural, recreational, or historical significance, which comprise the S1, S2 sectors. If you take a look at the area plan for S2, reserved open space, you will see that this is actually just a very small percentage of property that mostly includes the Marks Creek, Buffalo Creek, and Little River watershed area. One of these identified areas along Marks Creek, as Amanda spoke to, includes the historic Lake Myra Mill Pond. The Lake Myra Mill site dates back to the 1800s and has an important role in our history by not only grinding wheat into flour and corn for consumption or trade, but was once a popular recreation facility, and finally a place for the old-timers to sit around a pot-bellied stove with a Coke and swap local news and tell tall tales. This naturally beautiful area sits along the Pool Road corridor, and the previous open space and greenway plan quotes, due to its history of being a main crossroads, the scenic quality and beautification are important elements to maintaining Wendell's charm and rustic beauty. Although Goal 1 on the 2030 plan includes striking a balance between preservation of small-town charm and accommodation for sensible development, and Goal 2 includes conservation of community assets by honoring and embracing the past, preserving agricultural heritage and green space, I was disappointed to see the S2 area directly west of Lake Myra appears now no longer important to save. Plans are already in place to develop medium to high-density residential housing on it very soon. Although in today's modern world, developing environmentally challenging land has become more possible, the question is, should we? What happens around you or just up the road will also have an impact on you. I'm concerned about the impact this plan would have on the historic Pool Road corridor at Lake Myra. Are we doing enough to prevent future need for traffic accommodations such as road widening? It was already recommended on the 2019 transportation map. Will this destroy one of the last remaining reminders of our past, or is there more we can do to help protect it? Many things have changed since the last comprehensive plan, but I think one important aspect should remain. Start with what you want to save and work out from there. I ask you to please consider before casting your vote tonight, does this plan as is right now correctly identify what you want to see for the future? Does this plan tonight adequately state what you want to protect and ensure it? What conversations could be continued and modifications could be made here to help preserve what we all love about this town and its environmental and historic areas for the next 100 years. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Jim Parker?
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Parker. I live at 6317 Weathers Road, Wendell. And I am here tonight to ask you to vote against approving this plan for now. I think the first thing that we should bring up is, why does nobody know about this plan? Now, I understand that COVID took effect 2 years, nobody was coming to the meetings and nobody was really keeping up with what was going on. I've walked around Wendell and I've asked people, do you know about this plan? And most people say, no. And some say, well, I've heard about it, but I don't know what it is. So, you know, it's just like this thing's happened really fast here. And we think that y'all should take into consideration that there's not enough, you know, been enough input to carry on with this plan. The plan was pretty. It looked like something from a vacation brochure. But you know what? That plan has got to start right here, because that's the first thing they've got on the list. Start here in the middle of town and let's work out in increments. There's got to be more business. We need more business. That's what's going to draw the people. You got to have jobs. There aren't enough jobs out here to bring in the people that, you know, these housing developments are popping up everywhere. It's just too comical to think that you're going to just water this thing like a seed and poof, it's going to happen. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of commitment from you guys, and honestly, I'm trying to think what has happened in the past that y'all can stand up and put a star on, you know, that has really brought Wendell to the forefront. Like Greg said, I've been here in Wendell since 1972. I've picked up trash. I was a volunteer fireman. I love Wendell. I don't go to Nightdale unless I absolutely have to, but, you know, it seems like things have turned and I have to go that way now. So anything that happens here, I want to be proud of it. I want us, the community, the people who live around here, to take pride in what we're going to develop and not just throw a bunch of stuff out there that's not going to ever grow. It's just going to be there, and we're going to say, man, we should have thought about that a little better. So anyway, the hopscotching and picking up the property here and there all the way out to Sheets and even past that is just, you know,
Your time's up.
Okay.
I can tell you're not wrapping up.
Well, I was wrapping up. I was just going to say that part needs to not be jumping around so much.
We have one to be read in aloud by the clerk.
The following written public comment period was submitted by Lisa Lass, located at 302 East Haywood Street. It reads, I just wanted to comment for the upcoming meeting. The town should take down any old Tree City signs seen on Wendell Boulevard near Pelicans, etc. With the mega neighborhoods going up, all I hear are bulldozers all day, every day, taking trees down around me. Plus, Duke's recent tree cutting slaughter fest for power lines on top of it. We can no longer rightly make the claim to be a town that takes care of its trees. Our ambience is power lines and traffic noise. I laugh scornfully every time I see one of the Tree City signs. We don't deserve to have those up at this point. And that was the public comment submitted by Lisa Lass.
Thank you. That's all. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Recall that we removed item 3A.
So moved.
Right, so we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into section 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. And tonight we're going to recognize Wendell Middle School teacher Jennifer Thorne. Is she here? Miss Jennifer Thorne has served as one of our instructional facilitators, our athletic trainer, and the architect of our writing program at Wendell Middle School. Ms. Thorne has proven herself to be an indispensable member of our staff, and our teachers welcome her into their planning sessions because she supports them in developing creative lessons that push our students to learn and have the necessary skills to articulate their learning to their teachers and classmates. Ms. Thorne is a creative, kind, and supportive teacher. She has some amazing organizational skills that she shares with staff and students. Ms. Thorne is also serving as our family engagement coordinator. While in this role, she is working with both our school and district staff to create engaging events that allow our staff and families to work together to support our students. While we appreciate all the amazing qualities of Ms. Thorne, the most outstanding characteristics she has are grounded in the strong connection she is making with our students. When you walk down the hall with her, you will see students greeting and joking with her because she has become the trusted adult that's to so many of our students. Our school would not be the same without the great ideas, enthusiasm, and care of Ms. Thorne. We are thrilled to have the opportunity to celebrate her and the magnificent work she does every day at Wendell Middle School. That's a tremendous compliment to you, sent by the principal and vice principal of your school. So we wanted to have you here tonight and just honor you and recognize you for that, and thank you for everything you do for our kids in Wendell.
Thank
And
you.
You have the floor.
I'm humbled and honored to hear the kind words that you read out loud today, but I also recognize that I'm very fortunate to work with a staff that elevates me and allows me to work with them, and I wouldn't be here without the people that I work with, or especially the students. So I'm very happy to work for a talent like Wendell, and I thank you again for the recognition tonight. Thanks, team.
All right, section 5, we're going to resume the public hearing left open from our last meeting. Going to hear a little bit from Mr. Coates.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. Give you a quick update from the last meeting on April 11th. As we said, we started this process, the 2019 strategic plan recommended that the town conduct a new comprehensive plan. We started this process in spring of 2020, and it was a 2-year process. The plan does have a clear vision. It does guide future land use, transportation, parks and recreation, open space, community character, business development, facilities, infrastructure, utilities, and natural resources. It was a 2-year process. We did, after the last meeting, check our stats from the website, blueprintwendell2030.com. We had roughly 6,700 visits. 2,300 of those were unique visitors with different IP addresses. We did have one survey that reached over 700 residents, but there were certainly lots of visitors to the site. We also, that does not include in-person stakeholder meetings and events that we did in the community. Goals and objectives were based on public responses and refined by the steering committee, which was active for about a year, a little over a year, almost a year and a half in that process. Recommendations, 95 recommendations in there. I think one of the things that we heard at the last meeting was the future land use map. We did not really get feedback from residents on the recommendations during this last 2-week period. Recommendations such as doing a downtown master plan, working with our neighbors in Wake County on identifying open space and different projects for the town. We did, as part of this plan, focus on 4 areas that are anticipated to have change. Those were the Wake Tech area, near the intersection of I-87 and Rollsville Road, Marshburn Road and NC 97, the downtown, and the Wendell Falls Parkway and Eagle Rock Road intersections. And to keep in mind, these classifications are not a rezoning. This is a land use classification. If any project would like to rezone, that is a different project and would go through a similar process with public hearing and neighborhood input. Draft plan, the one on the left is from April 11th. The one on the right is April 25th, and I'll go into a little more detail of some of the adjustments that we made based on public input from the last meeting. There was some parcels along Pool Road that were identified as medium residential 2, which is 4 to 8 units. Those were reclassified to medium residential density 1, which is 2 to 4 units. And that was just the area along Pool Road. There were no other areas identified as medium residential 2 down Lake Myra Road or Turnip Seed. Low-density estate classification, which is up to 2 units per acre, was extended down Lake Myra and Turnip Seed, as Wake County owns large chunks of land in that area that are part of open space protection by the county. We did also, at a property owner's request, add 10 acres of employment classification and 34 acres of median residential 2 near Wake Tech, Coyote. The activity center, identified at the southeast corner of Smithfield Road and Pool, was classified as Activity Center 3. That still allows retail, like a grocery store, some service, but does not have the intensity of the other activity centers which are found along Wendell Falls Parkway or out by Wake Tech or even along Wendell Boulevard. And then we did have a parcel that was not showing up as county-owned land, which you'll see on this next map that along Lake Myra Road. So you can see in this area, if you follow the pointer, these parcels were reclassified from medium density 2 down to medium density 1. There's still an activity center. It's less intense, but still an activity center on the southeast corner. The other corners of this intersection, it's key to note, those are in future Raleigh's urban service area and Knightdale's urban service area. So our urban service area is only that southeast corner of that intersection. And you'll see this light yellow, which is low density estate. Must be, I did, yes. I think it's not showing up on that. It is showing up here, but it must be that large screen. So the lighter yellow you'll see along Turnip Seed, Lake Myra, and then some of it over by Lake Glad.
If I may, Mayor, I'm going to go make some copies because people in the public may want to see this. The low density estate extends in what appears to be one, and I'll try to make some copies.
That'd be great, thank you.
And then you can also see here, the blue here is Coyote, and the property owner here asked for employment classification and some residential classification behind their facility. So those were the 2 maps. I did continue on this slide with our place types. If there's questions that the board has on what some of those densities mean, I actually cannot read that, and so I have to look. I have my packet here, but if you all have any questions on place types, please let me know.
Any questions from the board?
Looks a lot better in that area, lower density. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the intersection where Raleigh and Knightdale and Wendell kind of converge? And it's my understanding that that was Wake County's plan in the 80s, and a neighborhood center there, and the level of density and things like that.
Yeah, sure. So the intersection of Pool Road and Smithfield, the southeast corner, which is, there's a little convenient corner store there now, that is the corner that's in Wendell's future jurisdiction. If the property ever were to annex, it would annex into the town of Wendell. The corner on the southwest corner is owned by Food Lion. That is in Raleigh's urban service area. And if it were ever to be annexed, it'll be annexed by the city of Raleigh based on agreements. The 2 northern quadrants are in Knightdale's future urban service area. The intersection of the 2 roads beyond Wendell's plan, in all of the regional plans and the town plan, city of Raleigh, all show Pool and Smithfield as an intersection of 2 4-lane roads intersecting in the future. Smithfield Road is in planning and design to be widened from Pool Road north to I-87 with additional laneage by the end of this decade. So our activity center is very similar to what the Wake County has. They have a large neighborhood activity center there, which is a place for non-residential uses that serve neighboring residential. If you look at that quadrant, the land to the north to 87 is all residential subdivisions. The majority are on community well or well and septic. And then if you travel further west on Pool Road, there are certainly subdivisions north and south on Pool Road that are in existence under county zoning. None of that area is annexed today. It's all in county jurisdiction. So that Wake County plan has had a neighborhood activity center there, and development is anticipated in other jurisdictions beyond that southeast corner of Wendell's.
So because of the unique makeup of that intersection, did that provide y'all a starting point? I just want everybody to understand where
It
y'all,
did.
why you started where you did.
Yeah, the activity center there could happen. There is a traffic counts in that area. There's a reason they're going to widen that road. There's a lot of commuter traffic from Johnston County that uses Smithfield Road to get to I-87 every day. There's also a lot of residential rooftops already constructed in that area. Based on land that's already purchased, I mean, Food Lion purchased the lot on the southwest quadrant. I would anticipate someday they would like a store. There is an existing forced sewer main that runs down that length of Pool Road, so there is utilities, and I would expect growth to occur in that area.
So based on that now, based on comments that we received, we have stepped down from that.
Yeah, we still show an
that.
activity center.
Right.
It's just not as intensive as our activity centers are in 1, 2, and 3 categories. 1 is the most intensive. Right. That is kind of where we have some 1s in Wendell Falls. We have activity center 1 near Wake Tech. 2 kind of steps down and is where Eagle Rock Road, Wendell Falls. Activity center 3 still allows for grocery and pharmacy type uses, but it's not as intense or as dense as the other activity centers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it's important for people to understand where we started, why we were there, and how we've moved along.
Yeah, that intersection definitely, there's a lot of other factors and jurisdictions in play at that intersection than just Wendell.
Right.
Brian, for my well-being, could you just touch briefly on the difference between the 2 different types of open space, recreation and conservation as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the open space conservation allows up to, it's a very low density residential, but does allow for homes to be built up to, 1 per acre. The intent of that area, a lot of that classification is owned by Wake County.
Okay.
Got a significant chunks of that classification. There are certainly other parcels identified as that as well. The open space recreation is for no residential development. That's land owned by towns for town parks, HOAs, and that does not have residential component. Primary uses, ball fields, playgrounds, tennis, arboretums, gardens. Residential uses are not listed in that open space recreation. They are in the open space conservation at a very low density.
Can I ask one quick point of clarification on that? Just to make sure I understand, I think in the plan, the low density estate is the designation that is targeted for up to 1 home per acre, and the conservation is half a home per acre, so like 1 per 2 acres. Is that, I think you said 1 per acre.
So the open space conservation, under new development, single-family detached homes up to 1 unit per acre. And then in low-density estate is up to 2 units per acre, so half-acre lots, which is consistent with Wake County zoning of R30.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the existing development.
A lot of
Thank you.
our urban service area is Wake County zoning, residential 30, which is 30,000 square foot lots. Those can actually go lower than that if they have community water or community sewer, which does happen at times. So low-density estate is a very similar density to Wake County's R30 zoning.
I kind of just want to make a good comment here on the plan. I do like the plan. I know people have kind of said, start from the inside and work their way out. But we're doing that. We're starting here and where we are looking out. We have to kind of look at this whole picture. And I understand your point of, start with the density closer to town and move outwards. I had the pleasure of kind of going to this area and kind of spending, it was just, I'm sure they just planned it like this. It's a beautiful day out there. this area along Smithfield Road is going to be a very high-intensity traffic area, and personally, I would welcome that to a degree. Maybe that'll take people around Wendell and cut through town some. We also don't have a whole lot of control over what will come along that road, being that it's out of our jurisdiction a little bit. I would like to do all we can as a town to still preserve this area. In my opinion, this is, you have a natural, beautiful lake. I mean, you have a Lake Myra Park, you have a Turnip Sea Nature Preserve, you have some really pretty area around here. I would do all we can, and I know stuff is going to want to kind of leak in here, or because that's just such a pretty area, and who wouldn't want to live in this area, right? I would like to see what we have as the medium residential 1, even go a step down to the low-density estates. I think that would just even further just preserve this area. Again, this is just a plan. This is, we're not rezoning things. We're not saying, because we do this, this is what it's going to be. This is just our plan. But I feel like that would give an even little stronger buffer between that and what's coming on Smithfield Road. And that's just my preference here. So I'd like to see anything to the west of Marks Creek that is the MR1, just go with that lighter shade of yellow to that low-density estate. So, but that's just me.
Madam Mayor, at the appropriate time, I'll have a motion that includes Dr. Lutz's amendment to the plan that he just mentioned, as well as a motion for the plan, but I know we have a public comment period.
Yeah, hang on.
I was just going, before we got to public comments, I was going to let everyone know my intent is to include Dr. Lutz's
It
amendment.
might put people at ease.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Right, any other questions or comments from the board at this time? And then we can...
And I got a question, maybe, because I'm kind of an, not a professional politician, I'm a resident and homeowner, or, former homeowner, and lived in Wendell for 42 years, and I understand concerns, but without some kind of plan, we're just trying to plan something. This isn't even written in stone yet. I mean, someone could come still and change something, but at least you got a plan, so that when people come to say, well, we're looking for this here, to try to guide, future people buying the land, what we would like to see there. This is basically what it is. Not so we have some kind of idea instead of them just buying and doing whatever they want to do and coming to us and getting high density there, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been using the current plan and this draft plan when people are submitting things or submitting ideas, giving them both what the current classification is and what the draft classification is. I think from a staff perspective, the current plan allows residential single-family homes in every single classification. It also allows industrial. And so if someone were to buy 20 acres in an area where we really don't see growth and see it as low density, the current comp plan doesn't break out areas into more details, which this plan does. So from a staff perspective, we're excited to give people even more direction of what that will look like, how a neighborhood will function, how an activity center is not just a mixed-use center, is not a grocery store with a pharmacy in front. That is not mixed use. That is just straight up commercial. Our vision, which came from the community, was they want to see mixed-use, walkable neighborhoods, two things. And so I think this plan gives clear direction in that major corridor area, especially between the downtown, Wendell Falls, and Wake Tech. Certainly outside of that kind of larger triangle, you see a lot less density and a lot less commercial. We really are focusing those intensities towards the interstates, towards the existing transportation network. What our regional partners do in neighboring counties and other jurisdictions do play a role in Wendell's transportation and in pressure for development. The amount of cars coming from Johnston County every day plays a role in Wendell's growth. We can't tell other municipalities how to grow. I think this plan does put a nice image and kind of shows what the town and the community would like to see in those mixed-use nodes, what we'd like our residential new neighborhoods to look like, and it also lays groundwork to kind of connect neighborhoods, existing neighborhoods, new neighborhoods to greenways, parks, and recreation townwide.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we will have citizen comments now. I have a few reminders for you. This is this continuation of the public hearing that we began 2 weeks ago. So like I said earlier, if you already spoke, you've already used your time for the public hearing, and that's board policy, so I'm required to follow that. And so you've already used your 5 minutes and your opportunity. If not, we welcome you and we're happy to hear what you have to say. I also feel like I need to remind everyone that this is our business meeting. It's your business meeting for the town of Wendell, but I'm not going to tolerate any outbursts, clapping, booing, jeering, sighing, side conversations, things like that. Things like that get away and they get out of hand, and that's been my habit and practice for 6 years, so I'm not going to change it tonight. So if you start clapping and booing and doing things like that and carrying on, I'm going to ask you to leave. All right. Who wants to go first? Give me your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
My name is David Cozart. I live at 6324 Weathers Road.
Thank you.
That's in Wendell. I think most of you guys have seen me before, and you know my opinion. I hope you can understand how nervous it always makes me when the government takes a pencil and draws a line around my property to tell me what to do with it. So it does make me nervous. I understand this is a plan. I've lived here all my life. With the exception of my first 25 years, I lived in Knightdale, where I grew up, and for the last 38 to 40 years, I've lived in a Wendell address. Most of that time, I have gotten in the car every morning about 6 a.m. and driven to Raleigh or Research Triangle Park, which was something I said I'd never do, to work. The point I want to make about that is I really think we need to focus on getting some good, high-paying jobs in the Wendell area. I think this plan does a lot to encourage a kind of high-density development that I've stood here and spoken out against many times. I would really like to see some good, high-paying jobs come in here. I'm a numbers guy. I went to NC State. Don't hold that against me. Got my accounting degree and spent most of my career in public accounting or working with a public company. So I'd like to understand really how much money the town has spent on this this plan. How much have we spent with consultants? Just external spending is really what I'm interested in.
120,000.
120. That's through this year. Is there more to spend in 22?
The plan's done now.
Okay. Thank you. 120. As I described, I think there's very limited low-density estates in this area. It's very hard to tell from the colors on the map what's actually a low density and what's an MR1. So I can't really appreciate where the lines are there. I think I'm east of Marks Creek Road, though. I'm definitely east of Marks Creek Road. I think I'm east of Marks Creek. You know, the area that I'm interested in is on Roseville Road, north of Robertson Pond Road. That is also a very highly impacted nature preserve. My property joins the county's open space, and most of my neighbors back up to the Robertson Mill Pond, which is a very sensitive area. I'd like to note, too, that the area north of the Robertson Mill Pond Road is currently outside of the town's 3-mile radius. And I believe that most of the area identified in it there is the MR1 or 2, not low-density estate. Again, difficult to see from the colors. I believe the plan states that there's an undersupply of larger single-family estate homes. I think this would be a good area For that, it'd be a good transition from the higher density there nearby the highway to the existing real estate. I would like to make sure that we're prudent in our planning, and I'd like to recommend that the board designate the area north of Robertson Pond Road as low-density estates, or remove it from the plan would be fine with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Give me your name and address.
My name is Kelly Marshburn. I live at 450 Chaplain Street here in Wendell, and I have lived in Wendell for 51 years. You might recognize the last name Marshburn, as our family has been instrumental in the development of town of Wendell. Historically, we started the first school here. We also started one of the first churches here, so there's a rich history for the Marshburn family in Wendell, which garners the pride that we have in our community. We're proud to be from Wendell. We're proud to have helped develop Wendell, and we want to see Wendell continue to thrive, but within reason. I'm going to speak from two hats real quick. One is as a resident and as a grandma. I have a 5-year-old grandson who lives in Rocky Mount, and he comes to visit me in Wendell, and we walk the streets. And I think back to when I was a teenager, and I used to make fun of our town slogan, or our community slogan, progress and opportunity, and we used to laugh and wonder where it was. And now, as a 51-year-old grandma, I realize the cons that come with progress and opportunity, and I'll give a real concrete example. I took my grandson walking. We were dragging a red wagon, and before we got back from Main Street to Chaplain Street, we had filled the entire wagon with trash from our inside center town. And my grandson kept saying, he calls me Momo, Momo, there's another bottle, Momo, gross, look at those cigarettes, Momo, someone threw a beer can over here. And outside one of the wineries, there were so many cigarette butts on the sidewalk that I put a comment on the Wendell community page, and kindly that person who owned that establishment responded, put out butt cans, encouraged their patrons to take care of that. So those are some cons of all this development and having people come to our community to spend money, which is critical. However, at what cost? So that has to be managed. The thing that I like to think about is, as commissioners and as town leaders and government officials, you guys have a responsibility not to let Wendell die. But we don't want Wendell to die. The Wendell that we are talking about, the historical piece of Wendell. I have memories of playing around Lake Myra, the boathouse, buying drinks, getting nabs, walking down from Lake Myra Road. I grew up right on Lake Myra Road. And so those things are important to me, but I'm also a veteran science teacher of 29 years in Wake County, and I teach earth and environmental science and biology. And it's really sad to me, as an educator of 20-something years, that I see a little bit of the same, not to offend any of you all, lip service that we get in education so often. And the lip service I'm referring to is these plans, which date back to 2002, 20-something years we've been talking about preserving these natural areas in Wendell, thinking about wildlife, creating recreational activities for our community members and our citizens to take part in. And in 20-something years, I don't really know where they are. I understand we need to bring people to Wendell, more importantly, jobs to Wendell, but a lot of the people who live in Wendell already don't want to see that Wendell die, and people who move to Wendell want the convenience of Raleigh, but the feel of a town like Wendell. And Wendell's starting to feel like a little tiny version of Raleigh. You can't even get through Main Street without almost running someone down or getting hit by somebody backing out. And I find that to be a little bit disconcerting. As far as the science aspect, we have spent how many hours, money, dollars, meetings talking about the goals and principles, which are preservation of the small town feel and historic character, protection and preservation of Wendell's natural resources. I've seen Lake Myra Park mentioned as a future awaiting location awaiting funding as early as recently as 2019. And I just turned around and asked someone, where is Wendell Lake Park? Because people keep talking about it, and maybe I've missed the boat, but I don't see it. I read something recently, I don't know where it came from, but I think all the research has been done. I'll point to that with this. All the research has been done already to the environmental impact of removing southern yellow pine old growth forests that go up and down Pool Road on both sides. We've lost the red cockaded woodpecker, historically was a resident in those woods, and it's gone because we've overdeveloped. There's an endangered lamprey called the Least Brook lamprey that lives in the Marks Creek watershed. The Marks Creek watershed, as you know, feeds the Turnip Seed Nature Preserves wetland areas. which is full of lots of threatened plants and animals. So I would be concerned about impacts on water quality. There's been so many hours looking at this and money spent looking at these impacts that I would implore you to now consider less about how do we attract new citizens to our community and more about how do we service the citizens that already live here while attracting business and growth. And the citizens, this is what I read, and I can't remember which report it came out of. There were so many that I was just laughing as a teacher because I've read so many educationally, same type of stuff. I just keep reading it, but when does it ever happen? 74% of the people in this particular, I think it was a recent one, who were surveyed in the community said that they leave this community regularly to use a park. And 86% of them said they'd pay money to use a park here. I implore you to consider that as you consider the development of Wendell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Frank Braswell. I live at 4116 Roseville Road. Tonight I would like to discuss this 2030 plan, and I'm asking the town's elected executives to consider my concerns and then make a small change to the designation of the land on map number 41. That may be the one that Mark just went around and copied, I'm not sure. Currently there are approximately 100 acres of the, end quote, Weathers land at the intersection of Roseville Road and Davistown is zoned R40 by Wake County. The 2030 plan proposes to change this current county zoning to allow 2 to 4 single-family homes per acre and be called MRL, or medium residential living. This would be a significant departure from the current landscape of the 8 to 9 existing subdivisions along Roseville Road. All homes in these 8 or 9 subdivisions were built on 4/10 of an acre minimum or greater, beginning probably in the mid-70s. I am asking that you change the Weathers land to LDR, or low density estate residential, which yields 2 single-family homes per acre. These size lots would allow beautiful subdivision in a rural farming community on which a developer and or builder could build estate homes, which would be a significant upgrade to many of the homes currently being built in the Wendell area. Plus, and this is significant, the Robertson Pond Preserve land is currently classified as low-density estate residential and is only a stone's throw from the Weathers land, separated by a couple houses and a wheat field. By redefining the Weathers land, 100 acres at Roseville Road and Davistown, to low density estate residential, there would be a greater consistency with the rules for future development, because the totality of the acreage north of Robertson Pond Road is primarily rural, farmlands dominant landscape, as specified in the 2030 plan on page 43, and be called a low-density estate residential. If I understood what was discussed about Lake Meyer a little bit earlier, part of that was called medium residential, and it was reclassified in the last 2 weeks to low density. Certainly with the low density of Robertson Pond and its proximity to Weathers, is this not appropriate that Weathers be classified as low density, since Robertson Pond is low density? That's a question I have that don't know if it'll be answered tonight or not, but certainly to change part of the town's jurisdiction, and we've got something that looks the same to me, I think it would be appropriate to change that.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Clark Keys. I'm actually a resident at 1304 Wendyfield Circle, Nightdale, but I am in the Moorfield subdivision, which is adjacent to the corner that was brought up in terms of being a potential activity center. So there's a couple of housekeeping questions that I want to ask first, which can be passed on in a different kind of way, or observations. On your map, it lists activity center 1, 2, and 3. Is that a category, or is that specifying a particular specific nameplate? In other words, it's a substitute for a name like Smith, Jones, Brown, or is it a category? That was a point of clarification that I would like to know. I had not planned on speaking because I do live in Knightdale. I came this evening in support of friends and colleagues, but mostly for my daughter, who spoke earlier, and she had to leave for a business meeting. And so coming in her support. But I was surprised to learn about the intersection of Smithfield and Poole Road. And based on that, I would like to make a request, or first maybe to ask a question. Is it mandatory that a vote has to be taken tonight on this plan? And if not, can that plan be put forward? I observed that one of the comments was that there were 700 people that had responded to a survey that was online. I've got a little bit of experience with doing research type work, and one of the things that we oftentimes have to be sensitive to is that individuals who will respond, let's say in an online environment, might not be the same category, demographics, et cetera, and so therefore you're still getting a somewhat skewed section, if you will, and please forgive me if I'm not using appropriate language. You're not necessarily getting the whole view. The other concern is for individuals like myself who, even for Knightdale, that's my mailing address, but I'm in areas of Wake County, which means that what Knightdale does affects me, and now what Wendell does affect me, but I can't vote in those municipalities. So I do appreciate having an opportunity to speak here. But again, my question would be, if it is not mandatory that you have to vote tonight, to perhaps delay it even if by 30 days, and to reopen up public comment and to allow for more people to input. And I'll give you one case in point. In the Moorfield subdivision, we just very recently went before the Wake County Planning Commission because there is a subdivision that's about to get started on Grasshopper Road in Smithfield. And the developer, when they bought the land, it already was zoned for them to have a certain level of density, but so we can't stop the development. But the developer wanted to increase it from 125 units to 150 units, and we went, it's bad enough it's going to be 125 because Grasshopper floods. We have accidents, including fatalities, on Smithfield Road. It's a complete muck-up right there at Poole and Smithfield as it is. And in the course of having those conversations and going to the Wake County Commissioners, we learned that in that conversation, the plans by DOT to widen Smithfield Road, it's on the books, but they don't anticipate getting to it probably for another 15, maybe even 20 years. So that may need to be conversation, and again, I may have heard something incorrectly, maybe there's a different kind of way of looking at it, but it's that kind of information that needs, I believe, to be shared not only with people who are in your legal district that's legally defined as Wendell proper, but also those of us who live in these unincorporated spaces, but we are impacted by what happens. So I would just ask that you reach back out to citizens again, that you delay the vote unless there's some pressing whatever reason that this has to go through. And the last note that I would like to make, or the next to the last one, is that we're now in the 21st century. As I said, my daughter left because she has to be involved with a business meeting, and I'm sure probably half the people in here do the same thing, including yourselves, because her employer is on the West Coast and they're doing a conference, and so for her, her day doesn't end until 9 p.m. Eastern. There are all kinds of 21st century forms of employment, many of which pay very well, that could be sought after, built upon that could hopefully help to address the 17% poverty rate. One of the things I've heard floated is the possibility of this plan including a water park. That's nice, that's cute. But if working people don't make a sufficiently high enough income that they typically cannot afford what is euphemistically referred to as affordable housing, yes, I do see the red light, then maybe we need to build it up. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, good evening. Phil Veasley, 277 Daniel Ridge Road. I moved to Wendell about a year ago from Metro Atlanta, and I've seen what a lack of proper planning and having plans like these can do. You end up with a car-choked suburb where everybody drives to work and everybody's stuck in traffic and nobody has anywhere to go in their own community. And without a plan, that's where we end up. Currently, 93% of our residents drive alone in a car to work outside of Wendell each day. And the only way we're going to attract businesses with higher paying jobs is to build upon our density, which that plan does address in specific areas. Obviously, you can't just build everywhere, but if we build upon our three activity centers, so to say, and have walkable places or places where people can golf cart to, bike to, then we have a very livable community where everybody can live, work, and play. And everybody just, you don't end up with a traffic-filled suburb, which is what some of our neighboring communities, such as Johnson County, are headed to. We hear a lot of people say we need more low density, but then you don't end up with the activity centers, you don't end up with the jobs, and you end up with just traffic. And I'm telling you, coming from Atlanta, that's not what you want to end up. So I really do think this is a good plan, and it's just a plan, like we've said many times. And I think we're headed down the right path. So definitely think it's a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, staff. My name is Adam Banks. I'm here tonight
Can you give me your address?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. I'm here on behalf of a group called the Wendell Citizens for Responsible Growth. My address is 2601 Oberlin Road in Raleigh. To start, I want to thank staff for the work on the 2030 plan. It was a very impressive plan. However, my reason to be here tonight is to express the concern of my clients who bluntly feel as if they aren't being heard. My clients are groups of business owners, landowners, homeowners all throughout Wendell, and to be clear, they're not taking a position by any means that opposes growth or doesn't want to see Wendell change. However, their point is a more narrow one, that change has to be conducted smartly and it has to be measured in that change. And so the externalities of growth that are present and visible throughout Wendell must be addressed before Wendell continues to grow and continues to expand. On page 32 of the plan, there's a long list of public comments that mention some of these what I've called externalities, and that's traffic, that's mega developments, as I believe one person termed it, and then a general sense of a patchwork of rezoning and development requests. So before moving forward, my clients advocate for some of these issues to be addressed prior to growing larger and these issues exacerbating. One concerning issue that my clients brought to my attention was what is oftentimes referred to as hopscotch zoning or part and parcel zoning. There are several terms for it, but it was the idea that throughout Wendell, on almost an ad hoc basis, is proposals for specifically for townhome developments came to the board. There was almost no consideration given to approving some of these townhome developments. Townhomes are certainly common throughout Wake County, and based on the projects in progress list that I can see for Wendell, also a very common home in Wendell as well. And so the concern that I want to highlight on The new plan is almost 50%, it appears to be a good portion, 40 to 50% of the Wendell planning area is coded for medium residential 2, which would include those townhome type developments. And on page 29 of the plan, there's a comment that says townhomes conflict with pastures, or words to that effect. And so the point that I'm making is, for this zoning designation, we urge the town to be very careful and very measured in its application. So with that large, almost corpus adoption of medium residential 2 for the 2030 plan, we would posit to you that is almost an abdication of the careful planning and measured planning that the citizens of Wendell expect from the board. It, to an extent, ignores the issues that have been commented on the plan, the traffic, the hopscotch zoning, the instances of where a new development might not fit with its neighbors. So in that respect, I urge the board to please give careful consideration to the adoption of medium residential 2, and also revisit that and with an eye towards making it more narrow and more custom tailored to the adjoining properties. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, a question for the gentleman.
Yeah, sir.
Can you restate the name of your client? And you kept saying my client.
Sure. It's the Wendell Citizens for Responsible Growth.
Is that a nonprofit?
It's a unincorporated association.
Okay. So just somebody you're not going to name.
A group of folks, correct.
Okay. So the second question for you, you said that the MR2 conversations with townhomes, that there was no consideration given. Is that your professional opinion? There was no consideration given?
No, client's opinion. I was not involved in those.
Okay. Have you reviewed any of the recent rezoning decisions?
Briefly.
Did you have any finding in that there was no consideration given? Is that an assertion that you made then, or is that purely your client?
So I'm advocating my client's position.
Okay. Is your client aware that this process started roughly 2 years ago?
By this process, you're referring to the planning process for the 2030?
Comprehensive plan, yeah.
Yes. Yes, and on that respect, like one of the other gentlemen brought up earlier, there's been a distinct absence of conversation regarding this plan.
So I appreciate that. I'm asking questions now, though. If I just want to get to, well, because I want to get to a specific understanding. This isn't we have an attorney from Raleigh who's here representing a client who's making points, but the points aren't valid. And the reason he's able to say that is because he's just saying what somebody else said, which is by definition not public comment. It's an attorney making statements. That's why I wanted to know, is that your belief? Is that your assessment?
So
on the townhomes, you said that there was no consideration given. We can disagree on the portions of the plan, but some of what you were saying as an officer of the court was more concerning to me in the way in which you were saying it, than if someone who truly lived there and believed it and had that experience wants to get up and say it. That's absolutely fine, certainly a thing. The other piece is I've never heard of the group that you represent, and I've gotten emails this week about this plan. All of those emails we've addressed. So it's odd to me that we're literally the 11th hour and there's someone that shows up, but I can't name who it is, and we don't have a specific action other than take longer and don't spot zone. But if you do spot zone, like make it match what's beside it, I'm just confused as to what the ask was and who the person asking was. And that was the total sum of my questions. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Am I entitled to a response? So
You
sure.
are, yeah.
So the crux of that there is, I don't think there's any argument to say that me representing a group of citizenry and representing the entity that they formed is not somehow a public comment for the folks of
No, sir, you're
Wendell.
talking to somebody that does it for a living. I completely get that. I was trying to understand who the person, like, who it was and what the ask was. When other people stand up here, I hear their address, I know where they're from, I know what they're thinking. With you, I have no frame of reference. And that was my reason for asking the question.
Understood. In my comments are more broadly focused. So the broad scale adoption of residential density 2, and with the focus on that being somewhat of an abdication of individual and tailored planning decisions. So it's more of a scope argument than a specific, I want my neighbor's easement to go here versus there. So it's a more generic and more broad comment.
Next.
Commissioners, Madam Mayor, my name is Brandon Strickland. I live at 4428 Roseville Road in Wendell. Most of you know me. I've lived here my whole life. I volunteer in town with Wendell Rams at my church, and I've lived in Wendell my entire life. The reason I'm here tonight is just to ask for an amendment to the plan. I don't want to trash the plan. I think there's a lot of good things in the plan that I appreciate, but rezoning was, it was just redone to low-density estates on Turnipseed area because of the preserve, and we have a preserve out where I live in the Robertson Mill Pond. And the area, my parents live on Turnipseed. The area out there matches the area where I live. There's a lot of fields. There's a lot of houses on 1/2 to 1 acre lots. So I would just respectfully ask that you would consider rezoning, or this isn't rezoning, but reclassifying the map in that area from MR1 to low-density estates on any property that is north of Robertson Pond Road. I think that would be a fair matching of what you've done on Lake Myra and Turnipseed. So I'd ask that we get the same consideration since the properties are so closely aligned, and there's environmentally sensitive property right behind this area, and it fits the character of the area. I did want to speak to what the gentleman just now spoke to a little bit. In the plan on page 6, it says we need more plexes in Wendell, which is duplex, triplex, fourplex, apartment, and townhomes. I don't see the number supporting that. I got numbers from the planning department November of 2021 that there were 1,887 townhomes or multifamily approved or under construction. The current, on that same date, there were only 3,774 homes in Wendell. So 50% of our existing units for new construction was townhomes. So that's a pretty big swath of plexes that we're fulfilling. On that same page, it goes on to say we have an undersupply of larger single-family estates. But the current plan, within the 3 miles, there's hardly any low-density estates. I'm happy to hear tonight that at least in a couple of areas, it's been changed to allow some larger lots and lower density. And I would just ask for that same consideration to be offered on Roseville Road so it provides more of what we're missing in the town of Wendell. It's already been spoken to a little bit of the poverty rate in Wendell at 17% compared to 3% in Roseville and 3.1% for Knightdale. I think recruiting industry and bringing jobs instead of just focusing on higher density rooftops would help to solve the poverty issue in town. And I know there's a few centers that have been proposed, but some of this farmland where we're giving up income producing land, instead of putting houses there, I think allowing for some more industrial building to replace that income from the farming would help to bring more revenue to the town, because businesses will bring more tax revenue than houses will. It takes about 10 years for residential development, especially when it's annexed outside the current city limits. It takes about 10 years for the town to actually see a profit on that, which benefits the citizens. The plan states land is our most precious resource, so we need to be thoughtful, and I would say maybe even a little bit picky about what we are willing to accept. Demand's not slowing, so I think it's time and appropriate that Wendell can raise its standards and give a little bit more balance to high density versus low density housing. I think we can afford to put a little bit more of the yellow in the plan so that we get a variety. because variety will allow people to stay here longer, move from starter homes or townhomes into larger estates where they can raise their family, they can grow roots in this community, they can serve churches, they can serve our nonprofits, they can be here for life. And I think new people coming in can bring fresh ideas, but we also need a way to keep people in town so that we can build relationships, build friendships, and we work together when we're together for a longer period of time rather than just hopping in and hopping out. So I think some larger homes will allow for people to plant their roots here and enjoy the town that I love and that I know all of you love. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next. You sure? All right, let's see, Mr. Coates, can you get back up here a little bit?
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the area out Rollsville Road, the classifications out there?
Yes, so right at the interchange with I-87, there is employment and activity center classifications. In that area, we have Coyote Industrial Park area. That's classified as employment. We also have the Wake Tech area, which is classified as innovation. And then we also have activity centers that extend along the frontage of the interchange, which is where we anticipate mixed-use development, right close to the interchange. The next classification, I think the area people were mentioning, was north of Robertson Pond Road. We have classified as medium density 1 to provide a transition back to the low density estate. And so from that dense activity center, you would have a transition of housing type back to low density, which is north of Davistown Road, which is full of Wake County subdivisions that I think speakers mentioned that are acre lots. That low density estate classification is not an area we would expect to run utilities in the future. I mean, to run water and sewer through those existing Wake County subdivisions is not feasible. So that kind of that transition from a dense activity center at the interchange to medium density 1 and then low density estate provides that transition and from a planning side.
And then the rest is conservation.
Low density estate is mostly on the western side of Buffalo Creek. The eastern side, Wake County owns large chunks of it as well.
If I can, real quick. Is that the only map?
Yeah.
All right. So right now, this yellow's the low density estate, so that's the half acre or larger. Davistown Road is the MS1. It's hard to see there, but hopefully on the maps it's a little more evident is in this area. That's conservation. The question before the board is, and this is a value statement, so this is a policy statement for the board. There's not a right or wrong necessarily. It's what value you want to put on something. Is it of greater value to have a lower density that might encourage extension of the greens and to this area and define Robertson Mill Pond as the extent really that the town utilities are growing? Or within this planning window, are you looking at the next road? It's not going to keep the developers from submitting requests. People still have their individual property rights and can avail themselves of that. But it would, at least at this point in time, establish a policy statement for that area. There was a question about why is all this on the map to start with, and I just want to clarify that for a long time, the urban service area for the town of Wendell, which is a county designation, not just a town designation, that says if water and sewer is going to be provided from the city of Raleigh into these areas, who's responsible for the allocation of utilities in that area? And this is designated as the Wendell area. And so that, what the planning director was saying with this, is that the low-density estate and conservation means that the town has no intent to grow to the north. And likewise, designation to the south says that the town's not growing to that area either. And so that's why hearing from the community and y'all putting that value statement of where that line is important, because that gives us the direction of staff. And I know I sat down with Brandon and talked through this a lot. The staff has the town has a lot of exciting open space and recreation projects that you may not be aware of, and I'd be glad, maybe we need to do a presentation on that at some time, just to get the public up to speed with everything we've been working on. There's some really exciting stuff happening all around town from a conservation and park standpoint. From a 114-acre addition to Wendell Park here and potential field complex, maybe a future home of Wendell Rams as part of a conversation. What was going to be a development, Pepper Point Phase 2 on the north side of town. We talked to our partners at Conservation Fund and have secured that property and are working on state grants to bring that in for a north side town park. And so everything from Marshburn to Old Zebulon on the north side of downtown will be preserved as parkland in the town. So there's a definitive parks and open space plan that we're actively pursuing and implementing, and we'll get a presentation to the public to bring some of this more to light. But yeah, for why does the map look like that? That's our urban service area. If a developer comes in and asks to connect to water and sewer, that's the area that they have to come to the town of Wendell. So hopefully our current land use plan is allowing uses that creates conflict in the community. And so where these lines are drawn is an important aspect to help reduce some of that conflict moving forward. We hear you. We're not trying to create something that's different. We just need to know where the line is. That's the point of this process. That area for more growth is happening between downtown, Wendell Falls, and Martin Center, Martin Crossroads. There is a lot of conversation that's playing about job growth and innovation. And the area in between these job centers are where we're saying the town needs and wants to grow. Okay? So I'm the son of a planner. I grew up with it. Some people got to do cartoon books. I got to sketch landscape plans with Dad on the weekend. I tried to avoid planning. I went into planning. I went into Parks and Rec. I've got over 20 years of municipal planning, open space and parks. Lake James State Park is an effort that I helped on. I know this stuff. And we appreciate your comment, and I'm trying to turn down the temperature a little bit in some of these conversations. And no, we're not your adversary. We hear you, and we want to listen. We're trying to be responsive to that. We do need to get a plan in place soon. The immediacy of it is the developers are coming to us, and they want to know where to develop and where not to develop. This plan gives us that guide path, so it's important to adopt it. It gives us the tool as staff to say yes, no, we can support this, we can't support that. So delay is not in your interest. And my 5 minutes is probably up. I'm the son of a planner. I can talk. Ask anybody. I talked an hour and a half earlier on the budget, which has a lot of cool stuff in it. Look forward to hearing any comments on that. Thank you, but I just wanted to kind of let people know. In talking with the board, they're hearing you too. They want to make those adjustments. They did it in one area. They get to make a value statement on the Roseville crowd who wasn't here before. From a staff perspective, either one works. You let us know what y'all want in those areas.
Let's talk a little bit about the changes that were made out around Lake Myrise compared to what it came up several times out Roseville Road to do the same thing.
So it's hard to...
Are you asking for us to speak, Mayor, or are you asking for town staff to speak?
I'm asking for them.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Do you want
So-
to know that as well?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I
Yeah.
didn't know if you were opening it for our discussion
Oh,
or,
no.
okay.
Y'all can jump in though.
Oh, yeah,
It's
fine,
all
fine.
cool.
And Brian,
So-
can you speak to the proximity to the highway?
Yeah, that was my main, the difference is
Yeah.
the interchange at Rollsville and I-87. The intensity of things that are already there is a lot different than the Lake Myra turnip seed area, which is still primarily low-density residential and lots of land owned by Wake County. On the Rollsville Road side, the majority of the Wake County property is on the eastern side of Buffalo Creek. There is turnip seed, or Robertson Mill Pond is a mixture, but there's large chunks on the eastern side. So that's the difference from the planning side, but it's certainly up to you as a board. And we had that medium density one to provide a transition from those intense activity centers back towards low density estate.
Which is something typical that you would do.
We typically want to see some transition, yeah.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, I've got some comments. So I was
Okay.
sitting in church yesterday, and the window that I look out, and I think I may have mentioned this one time previously, but the window I look out says Building Committee, R.B. Whitley. There's a Marshburn. I can see it's on the other side of it. I sit on the same side all the time. There's a Marshburn on the other. And I got to looking at those names and thinking about, like, these guys were sitting somewhere around here 100 years ago. And in the midst of planning a town and figuring out how they wanted to lay out the downtown, they were figuring out how they wanted to build their church community, how they wanted to go about building something that now is, still relevant, still working, still functioning, still thriving in 2022. And it inevitably started with a plan. Now, I've heard different versions of why Main Street is as wide as it is, whether it was that's the only size plow we had, or I've heard different versions of why things are the way they are, but all of it had to start with a plan. I will tell you, and I understand the logic behind, let's talk about how much the plan cost, because then we can talk about, was it worth it? When I first got on the board, and we started going through things, one of the first things was a transportation plan. It was controversial, it caused concerns, because again, you're drawing lines on a map, and the lines are always going to be in the wrong place for somebody. I didn't like that I got dropped in. The mayor got dropped into being mayor, and I got dropped into being a commissioner, kind of in the middle of a transportation plan that the previous board had. So, I didn't understand all the work that had gone into the transportation plan. I hadn't been on the board. I've gotten to watch this one, and I watched this one because, I'm on the board. It's part of my job. But the other piece was to see if I saw the same things that bothered me about some of the stuff in the transportation plan. It didn't. And in participating in this planning process, I see that there's some stuff in there that I think could be different. There's some stuff that I think could be denser. There's some stuff that I think could be less dense. That said, I understand why things are where they are. And I see the future vision. I love seeing the two watersheds and that growth of conservation consistently around it in this plan. That's important to me. I certainly understand that no one's ever going to, we're never going to get it exactly perfect. I will say that I take pride in the fact that every person that's approached me, or to the best of my knowledge, every person that's reached out or emailed this board has been put in contact with staff, that staff in many of those instances has been able to fix or help assist in those questions, and some of that has resulted in changes to the plan. I'm going to move that we amend one portion of the plan based on that on Lake Myra. I didn't say this initially. I used to ride through there. I rode through there last week. I'm familiar with that area. My wife and I were looking to move to Wendell. That's an area we rode through, cutting back and forth between Nightdale. I understand that. What I would say is that this level of engagement, and I say it every time that I see a crowd like this level of engagement is important in every one of these conversations. That's why we took 2 years on this. That's why last week when we got here and started having a conversation, we said, hey, look, all right, cool, let's go 2 weeks. We'll go 2 more weeks. Everybody that reached out or called that I'm aware of, we addressed. I am comfortable with where we are with the plan. I appreciate staff's work to get us to this point. And I'm happy to make a motion when it's appropriate, Madam Mayor.
Okay. We'll make sure everybody else is good.
What are we changing the low density? Is it the area near?
It would be the area that is currently.
Lake Myra?
Yeah, so Lake Myra, what is
Robinson, Pioneer, Weathers, Clear Hill?
No, Lake Myra, the tracks to the west of Marks Creek that are MR2, moving those to LDE, or low density residential. Or excuse me, low density estate. So you're making it less dense in that portion. I thought about that when I rode out there. I looked around. I considered that one. I haven't considered the others. I'm happy for this to be a plan that is amended in the future. But 2 years plus 2 weeks plus a lot of conversation, I think that we've gotten to a good place. And that I would certainly support decreasing the density there.
Yeah, and I have the 4 PIN numbers that are for the 4 parcels that are MD1 that would go to LDE if we want to amend the resolution to include those.
That would be great.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, we still have 2 written public comments that need to be read into the record as well.
Okay. Go ahead. Do those.
All right, the following 2 written public comments were submitted, first of all by Chris Fowler, 1556 Pleasance Road in Wendell. She writes, my name is Christina Fowler and I live in Wendell at 1556 Pleasance Road, Wendell 27591. I learned from my neighbors this past week that they attended a Wendell Town meeting on April 11th that focused on the proposed Blueprint Wendell 2030 Comprehensive Draft Plan. This meeting was the first time they had heard about this plan, although the planning process had been initiated in 2020. I hadn't heard anything about this plan either, so I went online to read through it myself. I was immediately struck by the scope and the scale of the plan. Before moving to Wendell, I lived in North Raleigh and I worked at NC State University. Our home was within walking distance of North Hills, and some of the architectural renderings in the Blueprint Wendell 2030 Comprehensive Draft Plan reminded me very much of that area. Moving from a busy urban environment to Wendell in 2012 has surpassed all of my expectations. As much as I enjoyed the perks of living in close proximity to shopping, restaurants, and a vibrant downtown, I enjoy the quieter pace of life here far more. Although I'm not from this part of Wake County, I know I appreciate Wendell as much as folks who have lived here far longer than I have. My home is the last house on Pleasance Road. The turnip seed nature preserve surrounds my property and provides a wonderful experience of living in close proximity to the natural environment without the threat of encroachment on the boundaries of my property by new development. Although I missed being present at the meeting on the 11th, I had the opportunity to watch it on YouTube. The people who addressed the mayor and the Board of Commissioners following the formal presentation of the plan made several points which were quite alarming. Brittany Marshburn raised the crucial question about rezoning plans. Rather than trying to paraphrase Brittany's remarks, I'll include an excerpt from her presentation here. In the 2007 Wendell Town Blueprint, the area directly west of Lake Myra to Smithfield Road is listed as S2 Reserved Open Space. This designation is defined as should be non-developable due to environmental, urban service, topography reasons. Appropriate land use for S2 would be conservation areas, park/greenways, agricultural and forestry use, limited civic use such as a school, and a very low-density residential development on large lots. The new 2030 blueprint has this area changed to medium residential 2, which includes moderate density development with an average of 4 to 8 homes per acre. This would entail small to medium lots with single-family homes, duplex, triplexes, and townhomes. What changed to make such a drastic shift from properties labeled S2 to medium residential 2? Can this change be accomplished without complete destruction of the property? How many green pastures, tall trees, and open space will be left? Also, what will be the impact of more high-density subdivisions on the existing two-lane roads that were not designed to handle this amount of traffic? The 2019 Transportation Plan suggests a 4-lane divided thoroughfare which would be needed on Pool Road. If you drive up Pool Road in Raleigh, you will see an example of what this road expansion would look like. This would destroy the historical and naturally beautiful features of the area that Lake Myra County Park is already working to protect, not to mention many of our homes, including my own. Page 68 of the 2030 Blueprint states the town is to consider the health and well-being of all current and future residents in decision-making. I respectfully ask the town to reconsider the medium residential 2 designation and consider requiring more conservation and lower density residential development in the specific area to allow for both responsible growth while protecting the current residents and historical/environmental significance of the area. I agree with Brittany's statements and echo her request that the town reconsider the medium residential 2 designation and consider requiring more conservation and lower density residential development in this specific area to allow for both responsible growth while protecting the current residents and historical/environmental significance of the area. I'm disappointed not to have had the opportunity to participate in this planning process, but nevertheless, I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and concerns with you by email. Sincerely, Christina Fowler. Thank you. The next public comment was submitted by Robert and Debbie Marshburn, located at 1536 Pleasance Road. It reads, as requested, we would like to submit our opinions on the Wendell 2030 Blueprint. We are writing to document our agreement with all that Brittany Marshburn, Amanda Allen, John Parks, and others presented to you at the town meeting on April 11, 2022 regarding growth and development of Wendell, specifically around the Lake Myra community. We feel strongly that the current S2 open space area near Lake Myra on Pool Road should not be redesignated to medium residential 2, moderate density development with an average of 4 to 8 homes per acre. We have seen the current proposal by Ellis Development for the Sealy property on Pool Road and do not feel that this is in line with our town or community's best interests or goals for growth. We believe that Wendell currently has an abundance of medium residential 2 development actively underway, especially around Wendell Falls and the golf course as you enter Wendell. We have lived on Pleasance Road off of Lake Myra Road for over 40 years and have noticed a significant increase in the amount of traffic with all of this new development. Wendell Falls Parkway, Pool Road, Eagle Rock Road, and Smithfield Road are already quite congested. As you are well aware, the intersection of Wendell Falls and Eagle Rock Road is one to be avoided, especially if you need to make a left turn. Exiting the Food Lion, again turning left, has also become an impossible task. We are quite concerned about how much worse it is going to get unless Wendell focuses on modifying the infrastructure to match the growth that has already been approved. We also want our town leaders to recognize the value in designating parts of Wendell for conservation. Once our green pastures, tall trees, and open spaces are gone, they are forever gone. We agree with the blueprint, which advises grow from the center and grow green. Specifically, integrated green space becomes a primary component of the development pattern. Growth is respectful of and oriented toward the intricate, connected system of open space. In our opinion, the lands around the Lake Myra community are vital to the commitment of growing green and connecting open space with the Turnipseed Nature Preserve and Lake Myra County Park. It is our desire to have Wendell's leaders to come along beside our Lake Myra community to preserve as much of our open space as possible. We respectfully ask the town to reconsider the medium residential 2 designation discussed above and require more conservation with lower density residential development to allow for both responsible growth while protecting the current residents and historical/environmental significance of the area. Regards, Robert and Debbie Marshburn, 1536 Pleasance Road. And that's all the written public comment.
Thank you. All right, is there anything else from the board before we close the pub? We hadn't, just a minute. Before we close the public hearing.
I'm just gonna make a couple comments, Mayor. It may sound like I'm gonna read this, but I've sort of been making comments all along. I think the main point I want to make is obviously we put thought into this. You know, the board is passionate just like you are. Even to the point you saw our town manager jump in. You saw that passion as well. You heard him make comments. But I've also heard some comments and you know, it creates a slightly defensive nature at times for us, as we hear that we're not protecting this, we're not creating that. You know, when it comes to green space, I will defend everybody here. Our position, you know, on green space, greenways, parks, recreation, our strategic planning reflects that, our budgeting reflects that. And you even heard, again, the town manager offer to provide a presentation on that. So we said up front before we even started, you know, we've listened. We're making adjustments. And we've literally had the best of the best inside our organization and outside our organization working on this plan, and for 2 years. Transition something we heard tonight. We go from high density, we go to medium density, we go to lower density. That is a normal thing. In my mind, that is to prevent some of what we talked about with this, you know, patchwork, hodgepodge, hopscotching. I think we're addressing that. We don't have it out for one section versus another. Proximity has, you know, an impact on this as well. Interstate, community college. Also heard that you know, we need to grow from here out. You guys have heard me say this before. In Wendell, we don't only have just a downtown core and fringe, a center that we grow out from. We do have that, but we have multiple growth areas that we have to consider, and this plan addresses that. You know, and just a reminder, as you've heard again, a lot of this stuff I'm restating, but you know, this is a plan. You've heard a commitment from us. You've heard a commitment from staff. Treat this as a living, breathing document. We'll continue to review it. We'll continue to update it. In my mind, I think that we do that at least when we do our strategic plan. That way it gives the board at that time, it's a reflection of that board. So, you know, again, restating a lot of things tonight, but I just want to reiterate that put time, effort, and thought into this. We've addressed the concerns. We hear your comments, and, you know, just understand there's a ton to consider here, but remember it's a plan, and just remember the amount of time. This is not, you know, just show up on, you know, April meeting night and iron it out. There's a lot that's gone into this. So I will defend this board, and I will defend town staff. Good plan.
Thank you. Anyone else? I wanted a quick comment. I've asked a lot of questions tonight, and I've warned them before we came in here. I've asked gonna ask a lot of questions. I think it's important for people to know where we are and how we got there. I'm a very big believer in the demystification process and how things come about and why you chose. And I was particularly interested in the unique intersection with Raleigh, Wendell, and Knightdale. I think that's odd, frankly, and very unique. So I wanted to make sure that you all understood that these numbers and things weren't just pulled out of the air. It wasn't just like that. So I appreciate this input that we've gotten, and we've gotten a lot, and I appreciate that. I sit up here a lot of nights and beg for public comment and beg for people to come and speak, and I tell you how you can do it, and there's never anyone signed up, but I still say it. So thank you for coming, thank you for emailing and calling. We appreciate it. We want your input. This is all of our town, all of our community. And I appreciate the staff, I can't see them all back there, for their response to some of the concerns. I think that they were very meticulous in addressing some of the concerns, and I appreciate that. As far as the green space, if we aren't already, we are on track to have more green space in Wendell per capita than any municipality in Wake County. I'm really proud of that. I'm very proud of that, and I bring it up all the time. And on that note, I know we're in the middle of the budget, but maybe July, let's do a big presentation about our parks and green space and our plans and where we are and how we got here and where we're heading next, because I think a lot of people don't know what's going on with that. All right, if no one else from the board wants to say anything, we'll close the public hearing. And so, what's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, for a motion?
Yes, go ahead.
Ryan, do you have those parcels?
I do, yeah.
And is it staff's preference, my intent was to make a motion to adopt the plan with the changes and have you reference the numbers. Is the staff okay with that, or would you like two separate?
We actually, let me go to areas.
All right, when I get there, you just give me the numbers then.
Okay, we can give you the.
Madam Mayor, I move we adopt the 2030 Wendell Comprehensive Plan after adopting the changes in the parcels that Mr. Coates will identify, changing those from MR1 to LDE, low density estate.
And the first pin is 1763-60-9947. The second parcel is.
Wait, does all this need to be included in the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, well then you need to say them again slower.
Okay.
Right. I mean, it's fine, but there's.
Okay, let's
I'm just
put
letting
my reference.
read the parcels
Okay.
and reference that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I meant as part of the motion, though,
So
didn't have
just-
to be.
I'll do that one again, 1763-60-9947. The second one is 1762-78-7911. The third one is 1762-68-4326. And the fourth one is 1762-87-8495.
Madam Mayor, the motion will be to adopt the 2030 comprehensive plan after amending the plan to change the aforementioned parcels from MR2 to low density estate. Correct. Yes, sir.
All right, so we have a motion to adopt the 2030 comprehensive plan, including the 4 parcels by reference to low-density estate and the amended map, including the amended map. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, is there any discussion on the motion?
I'm confused on where they are.
Is the changes?
The numbers are okay, but
Myra.
what exact areas on this map?
It's those 4 parcels that are right near the intersection of Lake Myra and Pool Road.
Just that area?
Yeah,
That's
there's
it?
4 parcels. 3 are on the northern side of Pool Road, and 1 is on the southern side that are currently MD, medium density 1, that will be going to low density estate.
But none of the other areas, okay.
The others are included in the map amendment that was presented before you.
The ones I'm talking, like the
On
ones.
Lake Myra and Turnip Seed and those.
Okay, just those areas, not the other areas like Weathers or Robertson Pond or near Blair Hills on the outskirts? Just those areas? Okay.
No,
Okay,
just-
thank you.
Just those 4. All right, is there any other discussion on the motion? All right, let's signify with a raise of hands. All in favor? All right, anyone opposed?
I don't
All right. going to move into our administrative items. Item 6A is a request for temporary street closure for Spring Into the Arts in downtown Wendell. I'm going to hear from
See, I
Parks
thought
and
everybody
Rec
was here for my
Director.
street closure. But I think they're leaving. You want me to wait until that clears out a little bit?
Just wait a moment.
Street closure.
I think the residents will be glad.
I know, but I was looking for a few more areas.
Can't say it.
Okay, go ahead, Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. I'm here tonight to discuss street closures for downtown. The town of Wendell will be hosting the annual Spring Into the Arts event scheduled for May the 21st again this year. The event times are from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in downtown Wendell. The special event necessitates a closure of 3rd Street and Cypress Street at approximately around 9 a.m., with those streets reopen at the latest 4 o'clock p.m. I think it would be open a lot sooner than that, but that's just given any kind of problems that we may have. This event this year will include open-air artists. Local art studios will be organizing activities for children, a local elementary school art display, live music, chalk area, a self-guided mural tour, and food trucks. Those attending the event, we just want to make sure that we can cut down on the conflicts between pedestrians and vehicles. So staff is requesting for Cypress Street to be closed between 3rd and 2nd Street, and 3rd Street to be closed between Cypress and Main Street. This is very similar to the old Wendell Wonderland format that we used to before we moved it to Main Street as well.
Any questions for Mr. Pulaski? Okay, do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the road closure and alcohol waiver request for for the Spring to the Arts in downtown Wendell. For May 21st, thank you, from 11 to 2.
Is there an alcohol waiver request? Did I miss something?
The request is
Just for street closure?
9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m.
What says items request?
On our form, it says road closure and alcohol waiver request. Is that part of it?
They're on the same tab when we put in the agenda item. There's no alcohol at Spring to the
I
Arts.
was sitting here looking at mine thinking.
Well, I'll amend that motion to say just approve the request for the temporary street closure for May 21st for the Spring to the Arts from 11 to 2.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion to approve the temporary street closure. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Item 6B is the park recreation area and facility naming application.
The town of Wendell acquired Hollybrook Park property on October 14th, 2020. This site is 19 acres, which is going to be developed north of Hollybrook Road, and then the south side of Hollybrook will be 4 acres of undeveloped park property. This location is south of downtown off Hollybrook Road. The future park will consist of ADA walking track, an ADA accessible inclusive playground, adventure play area, 4 basketball courts, 4 pickleball courts, 2 games courts, a natural trail, picnic area with restrooms, a paved parking lot, multipurpose trail, and fitness stations. Staff submitted the attached Parks and Recreation area and facility naming application to provide the new park with a name based on its geographical street location, which is consistent with the adopted town policy for naming. The park design is commencing, and the naming a park is necessary for the project, as it will be on future signage and for the construction of fiscal year 2023. The Recreation Commission voted during their March 1st, 2022 meeting to recommend the name for approval to the Board of Commissioners. And that name was submitted was Hollybrook Park.
Park. Are there any questions from the board? All right. Have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the request to name it for park property, Hollybrook Park.
All right, we have a motion to approve the request to name the new neighborhood park, Hollybrook Park. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 6C is the Town of Wendell Non-Discrimination Ordinance. Mr. Collins.
Okay, someone was curious where that park is.
Hollybrook Road?
Hollybrook Road.
Hollybrook Road. Thank you.
That's why it's so great to name them with
Yeah.
the geographic location.
Nice green color there.
Yeah.
Anyway. Thank you. The Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance, consider a motion, Resolution 10-2022, for adopting that and authorizing an interlocal agreement between the Town of Wendell and Wake County. The Wake County Board of Commissioners adopted their non-discrimination ordinance October 18, 2021. It was effective February 1st, 2022, within the jurisdiction of the county. The ordinance allows for municipals to self-determine whether or not they're included within that area. It promotes the principles of diversity, inclusion, harmony, and equal treatment, and thereby health, safety, welfare to those who live, work, and play in Wake County. Words from the ordinance. As well as to promote peace and dignity of the county. Municipalities within the county can adopt the non-discrimination ordinance under general statute, and they can enter into an interlocal agreement that establishes for the enforcement procedures and guidelines. So the draft ILA was presented to Wake County municipal managers and town attorneys in February, along with a proposed cost share arrangement. The county since that time has agreed to pay for this fiscal year and next fiscal year for any costs. The town's portion is de minimis, almost negligible. It's in the hundreds. It's not a large number. The ILA enables the county and participating municipalities to establish consistent policy between jurisdictions to reduce discrimination and centralize a non-discrimination complaint process developed by the county. So it creates a process to handle concerns received. To date, the governing boards of Raleigh, Morrisville, and Knightdale have adopted the NDO and the ILA. Cary, Apex, and Garner report that adoption is likely considered in the coming month. Rollsville's presented in work session but hasn't set a date yet. Other towns don't have comment yet. So what the ILA does is it provides for a complaint process administered by Wake County that includes an online portal to actually receive a complaint. The county handles completely the complaint process. The town would not be involved in that. That's a good thing. We do not have staff trained and professionals to handle that kind of complaint. The county's contracted with Campbell Law School as a third-party administration of the investigatory and conciliation process established in that non-discrimination ordinance. The process is private beyond the jurisdiction, nature, and number of complaints that would be received within a particular jurisdiction. The town is responsible for assisting in determining whether or not a complaint is happening within the town or the person resides in the town, but we're not part of that process beyond that, and we again do not provide staff. The conciliation session is a closed, informal, and confidential process between those parties. It's voluntary and non-binding. A person who uses this process has the opportunity to talk through a concern, and they're still able to use any other legally available process to settle their dispute. An amended red line ILA is provided in front of you. The version that we had prior from Knightdale had been amended to reflect some other town attorney comments in working with the county. I'm going to rely a little bit on Jim if there's questions about the difference. That he might be able to talk about what was more substantive or not substantive from red line and prior, and happy to take any questions from the board.
Any questions for the manager?
One point of clarification, Mark, the red line that you're talking about, is that on the interlocal agreement or the ordinance itself?
Interlocal agreement.
Okay. Just an additional comment. I think just want to say that I'm really excited about this. I appreciate staff bringing it to us. I know we walked through similar presentation a few weeks ago, and a lot of work has happened since then to get us to this point. But kind of makes me think of the larger conversation that we had tonight. And I'm sorry that I wish everybody in Wendell could hear this, but I think sometimes there really is a lot of validity to the concerns that it feels like we've got arbitrary lines on the map. And we talk about Wendell, and I think it depends on what day and who you're talking to, what people mean when they say Wendell. It's kind of, you also feel like you know it when you see it. I know it's the place I live, and I love being here, but there's the town of Wendell and our ETJ and our zoning districts and our service area and places that we might one day have water and sewer if we were to annex. All these different levels. We hadn't even talked about zip codes. We know there's people in 2 counties that have a Wendell zip code. But at the end of the day, I think we're all folks that care about Wendell, identify with the place and with the other folks that live here. And I don't think there's anything that we can do that's more important than ensure that anybody who feels like they're part of Wendell knows that that's something that we embrace as a town, regardless of who you are or what your life is like, that you have a place here in our community. And we're going to be glad to have you as part of it. It's also important to note that we're right now inside the town limits, a little bit of a donut hole, so this is the opportunity for us to fill that and ensure that the folks who live inside the town limits of Wendell have all the same rights and privileges of as the folks that live in Lizard Lick and all our surrounding communities that are unincorporated. So in this case, we're catching up with the folks in the ETJ, and I'm glad for that. And Mayor, I'll have a motion when you're ready for it.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I just say that.
Everybody gets their
Sure.
and then
Take
we'll
your time.
come back to you.
I'd just say that there's a ton of things we weigh on rezoning decisions and other types of zoning decisions, and there's some that are very much numbers and colors and where things should go, and some are values. And one of the ones that's kind of abstract for me that I always think about when I'm thinking about a decision is my 2 daughters and the town and the type of place I want them to grow up in. I appreciate staff bringing this forward. This is certainly in line with the community and the place that I want my kids to grow up. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else?
Mayor, I'll piggyback on that. It's doing the right thing, and I'm excited about that. When we discussed it previously, I was glad to hear it. And honestly, it's important. I'm just sorry that we didn't have a full house here to discuss this previously, but I'm excited about it. I'm all in promoting diversity and inclusion, so thank you.
Yeah, when town manager first brought this to my attention, he will tell you, I was dismayed and saddened that we even have to have conversations like this, but we do, fortunately. So we need to all do better, be kind to one another. Okay, you ready?
Absolutely. Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the resolution adopting the Wake County non-discrimination ordinance within the town of Wendell and authorize the interlocal agreement.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt the resolution, the Wake County non-discrimination ordinance within the town of Wendell and authorize the interlocal agreement. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think that was everybody. All right, we'll move to our other business and hear updates for board members. Campo, Commissioner Eatman.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a Campo meeting last week, talked about Lots of interesting transportation things as always, including an update on Campo's strategic plan. As we know, strategic plans are important, and these plans really do make a difference, and they set the course as how the professional staff knows what to do on a day-to-day basis. These boards and appointed boards, we meet occasionally, but the staff does the real work, and having a good plan to follow is the most important thing for them to be able to do their job well and reflect the priorities of the boards that they work with. Also included amendment to a study of 401, a project to do a 401 bypass around Fuquay. And normally I don't talk much about things that are happening in other parts of the Campo region, except to say that I've heard from some farmers around Fuquay and Holly Springs and went and spent some time out there a few weeks ago. And I'm really excited about the amendment to explore an opportunity. This issue boils down to whether the Fuquay bypass of 401 will go on new location or follow existing roads. And I think considering how to follow existing roads, have fewer impacts on currently used farmland, and ensure that, you know, we know that just building a new highway doesn't always fix our transportation problems. There are other ways to address those, some of which were reflected in the plan that we've talked about earlier, density and some of those mixed-use development opportunities. There's lots of things that we can do to ensure that traffic concerns are addressed, and I'm excited about the opportunities for that part of the county. Look forward to copying some of their successes out here in the future. We had a public hearing on the Triangle Bikeway study, which would be a bikeway that would go basically from Durham to Raleigh along the I-40 corridor. Some amendments to our transportation improvement program and further discussion of the bonus allocation projects, which I talked about a couple at our last meeting. Just want to remind folks, those are projects that come along. They get funded because a highway toll project is being built. That's something that we're going to see in our part of the county and later this decade. And it's an opportunity to reward a community for choosing to have a toll project put in their community. I know we didn't make that decision anytime recently, but since the decision was made, I look forward to reaping some of those benefits. And we certainly have no shortage of transportation infrastructure needs that we can make investments in. And I know we'll look forward to finding ways to make sure that those are beneficial to Wendell when the 540 completion happens between 40 and Nightdale. Also, discussion about the Greater Triangle Commuter Rail project. This is a project along the North Carolina Railroad corridor, so that's where the Amtrak goes from Durham through Raleigh down toward Johnston County. It doesn't impact our part of the county right now, but I do want to use it as an opportunity to remind folks that we have a rail corridor running through the heart of eastern Wake County that connects Raleigh with Greenville, and I think that I'm excited about conversations happening across the state and across the country about ways to find better and higher uses of existing rail corridors to provide transportation to communities, especially ones that are underutilized. And if you've stood in the middle of our railroad crossings in Wendell recently, you know that ours is a little bit underutilized, and I hope we can find some ways to provide commuter service on it in the future. Finally, working on a Wake Transit work plan for the upcoming fiscal year. We've got exciting transit news recently. If you have not heard, there's on-demand transit service available in Wendell, Zebulon, and Roseville. It's free. It's available wherever you are, whenever you need it. During the week, I think it's maybe 6 to 7 or something. Basically, weekdays when you need it. You can request a ride via Uber, the Uber app, or on the phone. I'm excited about additional opportunities for transit. All of these are multimodal transportation opportunities. That's the term of art that I've learned. But lots of ways to get around, and I think we've got to make sure that we have an all-of-the-above approach to transportation in our community. The hearing on the Wake Transit Plan for the upcoming fiscal year will be held at our meeting next month, with adoption coming in June. So if you want to have an opportunity to participate in another public hearing, let me know. I'll get you connected with our friends at Campo, and you can tell us what you think about the Wake Transit Work Plan. I think that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Wake Senior Center, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was actually a mix-up on the calendar invite that was supposed to be sent to me, so unfortunately I was not in attendance. I did receive the agenda afterwards, and once I get the minutes, I will report back to the board.
All right, thank you. And the Wake County Fire Commission, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Fire Commission met last week and recommended to the county commissioners the staff's proposed budget for the Fire Commission. Included in that for Wendell is 3 new battalion chief positions, as well as an additional firefighter position, as well as a couple of other capital items that the chief has been working on. So happy to report that the Fire Commission budget, we hope that the county commissioners adopt that, and certainly appreciate Fire Commission staff in working through their budget process and leadership for making sure that Wendell came out on top in that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, let's move into our commissioners' comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Joyner.
There's a lot of things going on. You should check the town website, but there's a lot of good things going on. I'm going to point you to one of the good things that I find about our community that I haven't talked about in a while, but it dawned on me when I was thinking about the 2030 plan and thinking about things over the weekend. What makes people have a viewpoint on something is their perspective on things. One of the things that has given me the most perspective since being in Wendell and since serving on this board is finding a church home for me and my family. So I would just encourage folks to find that place in the community that you feel comfortable to plug in at and plug in. It's like an entirely separate, my parents nor my in-laws live here. It's an entirely separate family for my daughters to grow up in, and something of value. So I thought while I was here, I'd mention that, and that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutz?
I just wanted to commend town staff and Parks and Rec staff on a good opening day at the park. It was over the weekend on Saturday. It was a packed house. There's so many teams out there, so many kids running around. It's so much fun to see. So I think it was beautiful weather too, so I appreciate you guys planning that out too. And also just a reminder, next Thursday will be the first farmers market here in downtown Wendell. So we're moving it to Thursday night versus the weekend. So it should be exciting as well too.
Thank you. Commissioner Eatman?
I was not here as a board member from 2020 until I joined the board in December. So I missed lots of opportunities to make comments about COVID-19, but I'm going to make one quickly. I am wearing a mask, as you can see tonight, because I'm in the second half of my 10-day recovery from a COVID diagnosis last week. Today, the current guidance is that's 5-day quarantine, 5 days wearing a mask, so I'm looking forward to that clock running out. But I want to use it as an opportunity to remind you. I was really lucky. I think that my biggest challenge with being diagnosed with COVID for the first time in this whole 2-year period was that I had to rearrange my schedule. And I wish that I could really totally attribute that to my world-class health. And I don't know that I'm extremely unhealthy, but I also know that it had a whole lot to do with the COVID vaccines that we're so lucky to have and that I've had. So, embrace getting back to life. I know I sure have, and learning how to live in the world that we live in today. But do keep in mind that there is still a disease that's out there. Be responsible. If you encounter it, if you get diagnosed, that's fine. I hope you have the opportunity, like I did, to be able to have flexibility at work, and whatever that looks like for you. Be responsible. Get vaccinated if you hadn't, and that goes for lots of things, not just COVID. I think we can all go back to our elementary school lessons about washing your hands and having good personal hygiene. It goes a long way for you individually, but also for all the rest of us that you get to see. So I'm glad. I enjoy shaking hands and having meetings, but I like to do it when the hands are clean. So thank y'all.
Commissioner Tornaski?
No comment tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Deloach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple quick things. This past Saturday, I participated in the Rotary Day of Service. We actually the Wendell group partnered with the Zebulon group, so we spent 3 hours. It was a great time. Surprisingly enjoyable. Beautification project, aka trash pickup, but we got a lot accomplished, picked up tons of stuff, and again, partnering with Zebulon, was able to spend some time with some folks on the Zebulon board, so that was enjoyable as well. I do want to thank again town staff for their work on the comp plan, and I do want to thank folks for their comments, for their participation. I defend the work of this board. We work hard. We are passionate as well. So I want to thank you for your time and efforts and your willingness to have the discussions to get where we got to. So that is all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We do have a big, long list of things coming up, so I'm going to go through them really fast. Public Safety Day is back in Wendell, and it'll be a Saturday, May 7th, from 10 to 2, on Main and Campen. There's a bunch of great kids' activities, and that'll be your opportunity also to sign up for Camp Choices, which is coming up in the summer. The Wendell Market's going to be opening, as Commissioner Lutz mentioned, on May 5th. There's a lot happening between now and our next meeting. Let's see, and I already mentioned Camp Choices. Since we last met, I attended the Imagine Wake Alliance meeting. It's a group that I'm on. I thought I would talk with you a little bit about it tonight, and actually during some of the comments from the public hearing made me think about it. The Imagine Wake Alliance, well, first of all, this was our first in-person meeting. And so people came early and they lingered and they wouldn't leave, because I think folks are just excited to have face-to-face conversations again. So it was nice to have face-to-face conversations with those folks for the first time. The purpose is to talk about things that impact Wake County and the direction that it's growing in. We've already discussed housing and other startup topics where we were getting started. And this time we talked about education, and next time we're going to be discussing transportation. Regarding the education, the speaker was Dr. Scott Rawls, who's the president of Wake Tech, who we've all gotten to know very well because Wake Tech is coming to Wendell. He mentioned it several times, and I've had a lot of opportunities to be around him through events that are promoting the new campus coming to this area, and he mentioned it several times, and it's definitely part of their spiel that they give now. So he mentioned something that really struck me. Their initial goal for Wake Tech is to take people where they are, and I wrote it down as he said it, and help them get as far as they want to go. And he said that they regularly accept students with 4th grade reading levels, and from that point, the whole way up to people who have PhDs, and these are all people who want to go further. So the point was, it doesn't matter where you're starting, they can help you at Wake Tech. If you want to have vocational training, career path training, college, high school equivalency, whatever it is that you need, you can get at Wake Tech, and if you're looking for that. He said that a caveat that they now have adopted is to reach out and take education to the places where it's needed. And that's why Wake Tech, this is where he first mentioned Wendell, is coming to Wendell. He had statistics he went through about East Wake High School, that only 55% of the graduates further their education beyond high school, and that the county average is either 80 to 90%, and that their goal, they have a goal to get the East Wake High School students into that range with the other students in Wake County. We're very behind, but that's why they're reaching out to us. He said they're going to offer a comprehensive list of offerings, something for everybody. And so there will be, as a result, there will be short-term results and long-term results of their presence here in Wendell. I heard a lot tonight about jobs and the need for jobs and the need to help people get out of poverty, because our poverty numbers are 17%. Education brings jobs and income and increases quality of life. It provides an educated, trained workforce for companies wanting to come here. We heard a lot tonight also about attracting industry and businesses and not be all residential. Industry and businesses will notice that Wake Tech is located in Wendell, without a doubt. They will notice that. And there are companies that will locate here because they will know that we have an educated, trained, ready workforce for them. That is jobs. I mean, the list of improvements from this and the changes that we're going to experience that are so positive is a mile long. What's the last thing I wanted to say? This is going to help balance our revenue stream. Right now, we are more residential, but it's going to help with that, and it's going to, there's a lot of facets to making these things happen, but this is going to be a big one. So in short, there's going to be short and long-term improvements for Eastern Wake County and Wendell and your kids and I'm excited about that. It's very exciting. I also feel like I would be remiss not to remind everyone again, and he specifically asked me to remind everyone that 2022 high school graduates get a free year of tuition at East Wake, at Wake Tech. So you have no excuse. The on-demand transit was brought up tonight. I've talked about it also. You know, you can book that 2 weeks in advance, and they will come and get you, take you to school, pick you up from school, and take you back home. Until we have more circulator bus and more circulator opportunities, this is going to meet that need. There's no excuse not to go. And I'm just begging folks to take advantage of it. I think it's very important. And again, it doesn't matter where you are, where you're starting. They will start with you where you are and take you as far as you want to go. So I really believe that education is what's going to change Wendell and get us out of the 17% poverty and bring the jobs, bring the businesses that we need, bring things that balance out our revenue so that it's not all residential. And that's my 2 cents for tonight about going to school. I'm sure I'll bring it back up again. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.